let's get rid of that first off. We don't need to talk about that because, simply put, there's big news in Oilers land today that I wasn't able to get to. That being the Edmonton Oilers extending Stuart Skinner for, count 'em, 3 years coming up here over the next few seasons in Edmonton Oilers land. The Oilers have secured the goaltending situation for at least the next 3 years, as long as nothing happens in the trade market for either of the two goalies over that time. Fans, friends, folks, this is Dolynny TV. Good evening and welcome into tonight's edition of what you could call the Edmonton Oilers postgame, but we aren't talking about that game, right? I got rid of that scoreboard. We're up and done with that. We are going to talk all about Stuart Skinner and his new contract with the Edmonton Oilers because, my goodness, I was pretty much spot on. I figured it was going to be about $2.5 million for his next contract, and right there, done and dusted. The Oilers signed him into a 2.6 AAV. But before we do that, friends, if you're new to the channel, what I want you to do is consider hitting that subscribe button here on Dolynny TV, as it would be great to have you along for the rest of the Oilers season and, of course, the World Juniors as we push towards 10,000 subscribers here on Dolynny TV. And with that said, well, Stuart Skinner, 3 years times $2.6 million is a $7.8 million contract. And for the Edmonton Oilers, it is a great lockup for the Edmonton Oilers, simply because now your goaltending over the next 3 years after this one is going to cost you a grand total of $7.6 million. It's pricey to a point, but it's not as pricey as it possibly could be when you talk about, right, the Carey Price of the world having made $10 million. You talk about the Sergei Bobrovskys of the world making $10 million, the Vasilevskys making what they do, right? Is, you know what? The Oilers securing two goalies, a backup and a starter, or a 1A, 1B for $7.6 million. Suddenly you're right back there, hopefully thinking Stuart Skinner's an upgrade on Mike Smith, and hopefully thinking that Jack Campbell's an upgrade on Mikko Koskinen. However slight that upgrade is, it's worth the money that the Oilers are spending on those two guys, especially when the cap percentages start coming down for those two player contracts for the Edmonton Oilers. All right, as we roll into this one, I just want to remind you, Stuart Skinner did not start tonight, so do not be angry at Stuart Skinner for any losses here in the comments this evening. If you'd be so kind to not do that, that'd be great. But as we get to Stuart Skinner, he was pretty excited about his new contract today. I get to play for the Oilers, which is the team that I've always wanted to play for, and a team I grew up watching and idolizing. And now Stuart Skinner is here, indeed, to stay with the Oilers over the next 3 years. So that's a pretty fantastic get for the Edmonton Oilers, who are very excited to have Stuart Skinner stay as part of the fold over the next several years. As we just get here, Skinner, of course, getting things going. I'm going to read you the release from the Edmonton Oilers that features the $2.6 million AAV. Obviously, Stuart Skinner, 24 years old. We'll get to his stats over his career in the next little bit here, but stick with me, as right now the Edmonton Oilers have signed goaltender Stuart Skinner to a 3-year contract extension with an average annual value, this cap hit, of $2.6 million, pacing the club to 9 of its 17 wins to date this season. The 24-year-old currently has a 2.83 goals against average and a .915 save percentage, so he's been a fantastic goalie for the Oilers so far this year, making 40-plus saves in 3 of his wins. The Edmonton-born netminder has already set career highs this season in starts, wins, and minutes played. Selected by the Oilers in the 3rd round way back in 2017, Skinner has appeared in 33 career games with 31 starts and 16 wins. So a man who's won more than 50% of his games as a rookie so far, sporting a 282 goals against average and a .912 save percentage for Stuart Skinner. He's been fantastic. And obviously this year, if you go to his stats as a player for the Edmonton Oilers, he's been pretty fantastic as well. Really doing a job that's pretty hard to do in Edmonton, and that is win games as a goaltender, especially this year with the defense that we're struggling with, and obviously too, the depth forwards not coming up clutch. Hey, Puljujärvi, nice goal though. Hey, we said we're not going to talk about that. Shut up, buddy. All right, we will. Anyway, to that point, right, Stuart Skinner at 283 goals against average this season. He's obviously been one of the better goalies across the NHL in terms of guys not expected to be too great. Skinner, right, 53 goals against so far this year in 19 games, as opposed to Jack Campbell, who's had a total of, what now after the 4 tonight, 57 and 14, a 283 goals against average, and 1,122 minutes played by Mr. Stuart Skinner this year so far. So keep that in mind right there. He's also faced 620 shots on the season. So that's Stuart Skinner as a whole. We'll go collaborate on the stats quickly, just kind of bundling up why he got this extension, and then we'll talk about if I think it's a good thing or not for the Edmonton Oilers, who desperately need him to be a great player for a long while. And of course, his career for Stuart Skinner, he had the one win, the debut win in 2020-2021 against the Ottawa Senators, 5-goal performance, an .868 save percentage, but all in all, a big-time showing against a team that the Oilers needed to win against, and he did. Then he went 6-6 in 13 games played in 2021-2022 with 32 goals against, 262 goals against average, and a .913 save percentage, recording his first career shutout back in that season and playing 734 minutes for the Oilers suddenly. This year playing a lot more minutes, and fans, friends, and folks, it's been a pretty great time for the Oilers. Signing Stuart Skinner to a 2.6 deal. Like I said, this is one that I thought they were going to do. I didn't know how long the extension was going to be, but that number of 2.5 was for sure a number the Oilers wanted to play around with. 2.6, you're 100K higher. I'm sure you can figure out where to pay someone 100K less next year, or ship someone out who's making 100K too much. But for Stuart Skinner, securing the goaltending is vital. Securing the young stud who was going to cost you a lot more money down the stretch, obviously if he kept out playing Jack Campbell, is another big clutch up for the Edmonton Oilers as well, and a very good job done by Ken Holland to sign, well, Stuart Skinner, not long term but medium term. And it's one of those things that Patrick from the Oilers Fanatic put out in I don't know if it was the comments section of the stream tonight or in the chat we have going on Twitter, but one of those things for the Oilers, low risk for the Oilers, right? They don't go long term where there's heavy risk. And of course, for the Oilers, they get lower cap hit because they don't go longer term. But for Stuart Skinner, he gets a consistent place to play till he's a UFA, 1 year after his UFA status comes up, I believe. And secondary for him, he gets a chance to stay in Edmonton and continue to be a good goalie for his hometown team. It's a big, massive W win in Edmonton. Despite only getting 1 point on the night, the Edmonton Oilers won the day by signing Stuart Skinner to a 3-year, $2.6 million cap hit deal year over year. Friends, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. It's my great pleasure to have you along as always. I will catch you in the next one. And if you'd be so kind on your way out, if you took the last 5-10 minutes to consider hitting the subscribe button, hey, love to have you. We'll catch you next time.